The Jim and Terry Show, moving past the feeling of weird and moving into stranger things.
Stranger things.
The end of the world as we know it, and I don't feel fine.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so you started off with what you were just talking about while the mics were off.
I had a good friend just the other day, just sitting around, and she said, "The world is effed up."
You were just sitting there,
out of the blue, stared into the distance. The world is effed up, and it's all the things we're starting to see. I mean, let's face it. When Trump got wounded in the ear from an assassination attempt,
that was weird, or what?
That was really weird. The weird thing is they had this in the bag. They just rode this like crazy. It was Trump everything. Even myself saying, I guess everything I was saying is wrong, because I had my doomsday everything. And I went, looks like he's just going to sail in. Their rally was strange, but it was a rally and everybody seemed to be together and, rah, 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 let's go on. And in a blink, that changed and all the momentum went to the Democrats.
With Biden stepping down.
With Biden stepping down. But Kamala coming right in. And I think some people think that Biden deliberately knew what he was doing and delaying it, so that when he said, "Okay, I'm bowing out," everybody went, "Whoa, great, Kamala! Let's just rally let's rally together against Trump." And I think it really worked. But for us outside looking in, we're all going like what the heck? Everything's turning so quick and so fast. We have peace talks. We're almost at an agreement. Oh, Israel just took out main Hamas guy who is actually the guy negotiating the peace. There's the end of the peace right there. Okay, we get that. And now Iran's saying we're going to retaliate really bad. And the United States said we're not going to allow that. And so we're, again, all the news, maybe just for headline's sake, but are we on the eve of a regional war, which could lead to a nuclear war?
On the eve of destruction.
Yeah. I prefer Que sera, sera, whatever will be.
How about Kumbaya?
But I think collectively we're starting to feel the pressure.
When you are mentioning a friend out of the blue in an unforeseen context, just casually stating something, I don't feel that way.
Well,
so who does feel this way?
Let me tell you a story, and I hope it doesn't take us into an argument, because this has been wonderful shows. We've kind of been getting along. But I was.
Well, we don't, because Jim's conservative and I'm a liberal.
Yeah. So I was going to this fair and ran into some friends. They invited us in, and now these people I don't think maybe have never ever been in a church. So they're not known as godly people at all. And I sat down.
Be godly, meaning your behavior is good behavior, wonderful people, without belief.
Oh, yeah, wonderful people, but I don't think they've ever been connected in any way.
So not spiritual.
But they turned to me and they said, "This is the devil," pointing to the opening of the Olympics.
Uh-huh.
And they're not religious.
Right.
This is the devil. And I went, okay, that is strange. The awareness and that things are coming from all different kinds of directions. And I think everybody's sensing something is happening, but we don't even know what it is.
I would need specifics on these things. For instance, the opening ceremony of the Olympics, we will disagree on, because that, to me, was a very artistic, very well managed, very well directed opening ceremonies, including our own Celine Dion. But the specific of what looked like the Lord's Supper being, in the words of Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, U.S., a mockery of Christianity.
It was.
It was
and
not.
And I know you don't think it was, but it was. It was deliberate.
You're going to say
2,000 years of Christianity. They know what they're doing.
You're going to say it was, and I'm going to say it was a great. No, that's fine. And that's. Am I going to throw you out without feeding you lunch? No, we're going to agree to disagree, and that's the essence of friendship, and that's what we want from NDP, Liberals, and Conservatives in Canada, or GOP and Democrats in the United States. We want people to be able to discuss their differences. So I'm going to say artistic interpretation of that. There's more than one Lord's Supper. There's more than one Da Vinci rendition of Jesus sitting at the table with 12 disciples. There's more than one place setting of 12 people sitting. It's not just that. Although you can argue that Da Vinci's 16th century, 15th century depiction is the one that they were mocking. There's far more innuendo and nuance.
I don't care, really. I know they were mocking it, and I...
No, you believe they were mocking it. You don't know.
I absolutely believe. I think it was totally planned. Isn't it funny? Jesus said, "This is the new covenant in my blood," as he passed the wine around. And they've got the god of wine laying across the table. Well, I'm sorry. That's just a mockery of the whole thing.
Unless,
"Thou shalt have no other god before me."
Unless you know that the Feast of Dionysus is also a festival of that.
It was a mockery, and it was set up. Even people that aren't religious turned to me and said, "That's of the devil."
No one I know has said anything
but
about this.
You run in a different world.
I tend to have a more open mind about things without seeing the devil behind every rock or purple person on it.
Of course you can't, Terry, because you're not a part of that. Like
Jim, remember that up until 40 years, 45 years of my life, more than that, 50 some odd years of my life was where you are.
I know, and you walked away from it.
I walked away from it because there were things that I could not accept or explain anymore. So again, my thesis is evidence that demands a verdict, and I did not find evidence sufficient to convince me. So I'm on the backside of that. And agnosticism is not atheism. It is saying, I don't know, and I don't find evidence to support it. So I don't know. I don't know with certainty.
I understand.
Your faith takes you from evidence to belief.
Belief.
I'm still stuck with evidence without the necessary step to say, well, I don't see enough evidence, but I will believe it anyway.
Okay, we can agree on two things. I see, evil.
Yes.
And you see inclusion.
I see.
And I think the inclusion excluded Christians. So the including of your including people is to exclude God. Other than the Roman god of whatever and the woman of God of screwing or whatever. I found it absolutely disturbing.
Right.
And I expected that. I will watch the closing ceremonies, and I know I'm going to be appalled.
I don't know that you will be. But I don't know what's in store.
I bet you I will. Probably crosses will come down from the sky, upside down, and
dripping in blood.
And little babies with arrows shooting at it or something.
That's fine. You're okay with Marie Antoinette holding her head. But
no, I wasn't okay with that either, but...
But you do know it's Marie Antoinette.
Yes, I knew what that was. Yeah.
Okay.
Same as that was a blasphemy of the Last Supper, meaning to dig at the whole holiness of God.
Okay, well, let's talk about inclusion and Jesus, and talk about tax collectors and prostitutes.
Yeah.
What's the difference between LGBTQ?
Well, I think one is that inclusion meant they all repented. For instance, let's say I was going to have an affair. Let's say I'm screwing around and as a Christian, I'm going, oh my God, that's horrible. I shouldn't do this. It's one thing to say that, and I'm not saying that's good, but it's one thing to say that and another thing to say, I'm going to find everybody else who's screwing around, going against the will of God, because there's many laws, many rules that God has posted that he doesn't want you doing.
Many rules that you believe God has posted because you accept the content of the ancient text.
Yes, that's a given. Yes.
So it's not a given for me. So
I know,
I want to make sure you understand.
But it is for me. So there's many things that God does not want us to do, or that grieves him, or he finds debauchery, or he finds detestable. Many things. So let's say I'm doing something that's detestable to God. I can either say, no, I don't want to believe in a God that says that's detestable. Or I can start forming people and maybe having parades or maybe doing anything to honor it. And not only honor it, why don't we bring as many people into this camp as we can, as if it's going to nullify God? You're not going to quench God. He doesn't change. He's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
And God doesn't need you or your righteous indignation, my friend.
It's not righteous indignation.
It is. You got upset and very angry because you believe it's a mockery.
Not very angry.
But if you take the notion that was intentional and that you believe that your reading of the scriptures is the Word of God. If you start saying, well, let's just talk about history.
Yeah.
If we stuck to history and culture, there would be no offense. But once you take it to personal faith, all of a sudden it's offensive.
No, the faith that God presented through Jesus Christ. That's the faith that I believe in. It made sense to me because I see the evils in the world, and I know the evil had to be dealt with, and God dealt with it by having his son pay the price for my sin.
Morality doesn't have to exist in a Christian framework.
No,
Morality
I
can
know,
exist
I know
without.
atheists that are the most wonderful people I know and the most family-oriented people I know. I know that.
Okay.
It's not, I was explaining this the other day to someone. I said, listen, my opinion really doesn't matter.
No.
What I'm concerned about is what they're doing, and they're in. It's God's opinion in my how I feel. It's His opinion that counts, and He's laid out His opinion clearly. To parade against that is one thing. To sin that's a sin, and it's bad. But to parade it and say all of a sudden, I don't want anything to do with this God if he's going to make me have to fall in line. So that's where I think it is. And so I wasn't angry as much as I saw the world going to hell in a handbasket.
So is that making you angry, or is that making you
It
upset?
doesn't make me angry as much as I'm observing the mankind's decline.
And what you say is mankind's decline, you use the word correctly. I would say it's including. It's including people who for so long have been forced to be out of the public eye,
Sure.
who could not take public offices, who once discovered would be stoned, who were excluded from communities, from families, whose parents would disown them for who they were. And I'm saying I would rather that than
Well, I know you would, and as a teacher, you don't mind people coming in and confusing the children at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14 years old on whether or not they're boys or girl,
Again,
I find it an agenda.
I would say that, well, I sent you an article about Ron DeSantis and his anti-woke law. It got overturned in the United States.
Yeah.
Ron DeSantis, the most anti-woke person who would fit right with your ideology, has been overturned by a conservative court.
Last word to you.
There is no last word.
Okay.
Be happy. Accept one another.
What's the song I was singing? Que sera.
No, I think you want Kumbaya.
All right.
All right.
No,
Jim and Teresa.
no.
That's Jim's song. You can get it on his album on this YouTube page. Bye-bye for now.